my two sweet co-presenters. That's Andrew and Alex, my colleague, also GLAM strategist. Well, we will all be telling you stuff about GLAM workflows. What will happen in this session, just a brief overview, and the times may be a little bit different. We will look at the dynamics of the room and how interested people are, how many questions there are. But in total we have an hour. A part of this will be some introduction to workflows. You all see some sheets of paper in front of you. One of them looks like this. We'll go through that and explain it and give examples. That will take a half an hour, maybe a bit more. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions in between. So whenever you have something that comes up during the explanation that is unclear, or you want more explanation about, or you have some comments, just interrupt. And then I would like to have us all do little group exercises. Just a quick estimate. I think we're like almost 20 people here. Okay, just to be aware. So we're going to split in groups and apply what has been said in the first section. If this whole, explanation about workflows makes sense to you and it makes sense to your projects. And then at the end of the session, we will come together, see what we have learned and what our insights are, and if this is useful for you. So that's the idea. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to do a lot of talking first, and then hand the microphone also to Andrew, who will give a concrete example, and then we'll go on to the exercise. The upload workflow. As I said, that's one of the first things in the beginning of the presentation or of the session. I think most of you will be here because you're either interested in GLAM projects or you're doing them. Can I just see a show of hands? Who of you is actively doing GLAM and Commons or Wikidata projects with your affiliates? Most of you are. Okay. Or are interested in doing it? Also good. Okay. Good. So that's probably one of the things that brings us together. Some of you might have done these projects actively, some of you might have been, more looking at it from a little bit of a distance. Both perspectives are good. What we will look at is one thing that we noticed. I'm not working very actively at the foundation on structured data on Commons. I'm one of the people, or in fact, the main responsible person to make sure that structured data on Commons will become adapted by GLAMs, that's GLAMs, cultural institutions, very soon will be able to use structured data on Commons and can reap the benefits from it. And in order to prepare for that, to make sure that we are well informed and well prepared, in the autumn of last year, last calendar year, Jonathan Morgan from the Wikimedia Foundation has done a research, a set of interviews and quite a big survey among GLAM staff internationally to see, how they currently work with Commons. What are their questions? What are their things that they bump into? Questions have been asked to both GLAM staff, but also Wikimedians and residents, people who regularly do GLAM activities on Commons. And one of the main findings that we have noticed quite a few things. One of the main findings is that, especially when people are new, they are really lost. It's hard to find documentation on Commons on how to do things there. If you're new Wikipedian residents, you're kind of really still unfamiliar. We have quite a few Wikipedians and residents that are moving to, may also be quite new to our movement in general. That happens. It's kind of confusing to get your way around. I've been very active in the Dutch chapter for a long time, and I've seen that process a lot myself. Newcomers are confused. There is a lack of documentation. It is present on Commons, but this tool is documented here, this tool is documented there, and then the whole process of doing stuff as a GLAM or as a Wikimedia residence on Commons or Wikidata, that in general is not documented well. So that's one of the things that we want to address. Now that Commons will move to structured data, will include structured data, this is a very good opportunity to start from scratch and to help the community to encourage better documentation. So one of the things that we are doing now, and this is only just the first version of it, is to clarify the workflow. Just laying this out, like these are the typical steps that you do, is something that we notice don't even realize that they are doing this. And I've already heard a few people say, oh, this is really clarifying, like, oh, these are the steps, oh, indeed, it's true, oh, that makes sense. So I hope the same response, or maybe you will say, no, Sandra, this doesn't make sense at all. You forget this step, and this flow as a whole is, pull-ups. You have to do this differently. I hope that kind of stuff comes out of the session, that we learn that from you, so that we can improve this together. I also got a question from Mario. Can you translate this? Yes, this thing is on Commons. It's as an SVG. Now, I'm not an SVG wizard. I actually made this very easily in Google Drawings, which exports to SVG. So if you are into SVG, you might notice that it's maybe not the best kind of SVG. But I've also included a link on Commons to the source file on Google Slides or on Google Drive, and you could just copy that for your own personal purposes and translate it. So you can modify it, you can take it, use it for your own purposes. Okay, what we are going to do now is go through the steps with some examples, concrete examples of projects that maybe I have worked on. Andrew will give an example of a project that he has worked on, and show you what we mean by the specific steps. In the slide that you have been given there, the slide in front of you, and that is also on Commons, there is a section of things, what to think about, with the pinky emoji. That's the kind of the tips that we will treat in this session. Then there's also a section on tools, the typical tools that you can use. We won't go very deeply into that specific part, but Alex is kindly holding up a sheet for you, which is kind of, I think, with more detailed information, also an overview of tools that you can use. So I've already heard feedback from Andrew, like visual file change. I did not know that existed. So there's a list of tools on there that maybe you're not familiar with yet, or you sometimes don't think about in your process, that might help you. If you have specific questions about a tool, how it works, what it does, you can always come to us later after the session, and we can try to demonstrate to you, or find out together with you what's the best application for it could be for your cases. So we'll talk mostly about the process, not about the tools, but if there are questions, come to us. Okay, we'll dive into it. So the whole workflow is about the process of the things you do on Wiki. We are very aware, I also know that from my own experience of doing lab projects in the Dutch chapter. Before you get to do things on Wiki, there's a whole process of negotiation with the lab. You get to know each other, you might do some little tryouts, and you might do an edit-a-thon, and it might take 2 or 3 or 5 years before you even get to doing uploads. That whole process is not covered here. What this slide, or what this workflow covers, is actually the whole Wiki process. We know that that process before is quite important. It's a social process. It's missing from this. If we get feedback from you, like, tell us more about that. That's also very valuable feedback for us, that we have to focus more on that part. But for now, we focus on the own Wiki work. So we have kind of identified, in fact, like 20 different steps that are typical. Some are compulsory, some you cannot escape from, some are optional, and we have condensed them in 7 steps. I have to count them myself. But it all starts with, okay, you've gone through the negotiation with the GLAM, you've become good friends, you are in agreement, you have maybe a memorandum of understanding together, you've designed a project together, and then you're at the point where either a GLAM wants to contribute data, like their data set to Wikidata, or they want to contribute media to Commons, they may have a set of videos that they want to share, they may have 3D files, which is a new thing on Commons, or they may just have a set of images from their collection. All of this is possible. What's next? What's the next step that happens? A very first step, and I know that from very painful personal experience, is you always have to double check if copyright is okay for the files that you have received, that you are in agreement about, that will be shared, for the data itself. I have been in a residency 3-4 years ago where a few of the labs that I worked with didn't. It might also have been it has been my fault that I didn't explain it clearly enough. But I got files from labs that were not that were still in copyright. So, for instance, I got files that were made by a creator that was not deceased 70 years yet. Or there was unclarity about authorship, and the files were still too young to be able to upload them as being PD anonymous. So you might come at unexpected things there, even if you try to explain very well to grants how copyright policies work on our projects, how we deal with what free media means to us, how copyright works even. My experience is that many grants actually don't really have a very solid knowledge about that. Even then, if you don't have preparation well, you might get materials that are still doubtful or that are still difficult. So you have to do that first step of checking. And one of the things that can happen is that you are dealing with materials that are in fact still copyrighted and that have to be released. And just to give one example of a chapter that has done this job very well, this was in this month's Glam newsletter. From the Estonian chapter, they have recently uploaded a set of digital representations of artworks by an Estonian artist, Peter Allik, and he's still alive. He's born in '66, so it's a living artist. So by default, this is a big no for commons, of course, but the museum that they have worked with and the artists themselves have clearly communicated with them. They have had a solid agreement about releasing those materials, releasing digital copies of the artworks of that artist. They have properly done OTRS release. Is everyone familiar with OTRS on Commons? What OTRS is, the process? That's in fact the email address to which you send clarification about copyright statements that indeed you are the copyright holder and or you have the rights to release certain files under a free license. So they've done that quite properly. And now, very beautifully, I personally become very enthusiastic about it. We don't have a lot of contemporary art on Commons. That is 3D materials, but in this case they've done it quite right. For Wikidata, I might be stepping on more complex material here. I've worked, for instance, on a project where Flemish museums have released metadata of their collections and have made this metadata available on Wikidata as a form of linked open data publication. And with all these museums, we have gone through the effort of letting them sign an agreement where they release their datasets as CC0 to be compliant with the CC0 policy of Wikidata. In both cases, you have to be mindful of that. This is an example of then copyright statements that you can then in a more complex way add to Commons. I think many of you are familiar with that process. That you both have at this moment a Commons copyright template, but also a template that says something about the partnership itself. So this is an example of one of the former Brazilian affiliates who done a partnership with a local museum, and they also have a template that shows some information about the partnership itself. Any additions to that, or no? Okay. Sometimes I will check with people. Any questions so far?
Actually, one thing.
Yeah, okay.
What was really interesting about this partnership is the partners still wanted accreditation as a courtesy, not as a requirement of the copyright. So attribution, so people can release things under the public domain, but ask as a courtesy, I want you to credit our institution as best you can. That kind of courtesy additional work in the template is very useful, and it can help with the partnership. So if you clarify with them, put this under a free license, but scholarly practice is to attribute you, right? The best practice for using images is attribution. You can also write that into the statement, and that helped them get it through OTRS as well. So it was kind of a nice process in the negotiation.
Thanks. So, copyright status. I see a question. Yes.
What if there are pictures of live human beings? What about GDPR?
Can I just answer by saying I don't know the answer? Yeah. I'm personally not familiar enough with it yet to know how, to what extent it affects our GLAM work. So, I don't know. Does someone know that?
I've got a pretty good sense. I mean, it's going to vary. It's going to vary wildly from one country to another. For example, here in Germany, if you photograph someone in the street and publish that photo, you can be in a lot of legal trouble. United States, you do exactly the same thing, and it's completely normal and legitimate. So there isn't a general answer. You would have to be dealing with the country of origin of the material. And in some cases, you need to put just a personal rights tag on it. In some cases, you probably wouldn't even need to do that. It's going to vary, but there's actually a pretty good discussion on commons of what to do with such things. And if you're doing it in a batch upload and randomly there, it is probably something that you're going to have to consider about whether you can upload those images depending on the sophistication of your upload process or how quickly you can get in manually and fix it if you're doing it in a way that's not strictly correct.
There's a new EU directive coming, forcing on 25th of May, and all users of so-called memory over 65. Giving statements in Europe about this and this is a question.
I know that Foundation Legal is working on it, but did you have any additions to that?
I would just suggest anytime you're dealing with copyright, review the documentation on commons and review the institution and make sure that they have a very clear sense of what's going on. It varies so much by country and jurisdiction by jurisdiction that every process is a relearning process.
Cool, thank you. This is maybe something that can be added to documentation, so this is very valuable that these questions come up. This is just a summary of what was already said, and it's also in the sheet. Next step, preparing data. This is my favorite step, but I'm strange. I'm a nerd. I like this. Most people will get headaches here. Well, I also get headaches. Because in my experience, and probably in yours as well, you get metadata from a GLAD collection, and it might be an Access export. And you may not have Microsoft Access on your computer. You might not even be able to open it, and then it's like 7 different tables behind each other that are all very intricately interlinked. I've seen that. Or you might get a PDF, or even just stuff on paper. It comes in all forms. I just gave an example that I looked up myself from one of our Dutch municipalities, that they also have a better database, but just for the example, this is a list of their monuments, like built heritage, and it looks like streets, and then in the streets they have like national monuments are this and this and this and this house number, and municipal monuments are this and this and this and this house number. And you want to translate that to nice, description templates, info box templates on comments. Good luck with that. So this whole data wrangling process, that's also something that came out of the research that we did for preparation of structured data on commons. That's a very frustrating step. It takes a lot of work, often underestimated. It can take really hours and days of really hard labor to update and prepare data for added commons or Wikidata. On the sheet you will see a few tools that are recommended for that. Personally, I use OpenRefine a lot. It's open source software. It used to be spearheaded by Google, but now it's totally open source. And it's a tool with which you can do very advanced data wrangling. One thing as an advantage that it has, it also does reconciliation. Is that a term that people have already heard? It's okay to say no, because then I can explain it. But you're different. Now, reconciliation is something that is going to be needed a lot more, especially when structured data is going to come to commons. That's in fact when you, for instance, get a list of artist names from your local museum, and you want to get all the Wikidata item numbers for all these people. And how do you do that? You just get a list of, last name, first name, and good luck. If it's 500 names, will you look them up manually? It's quite boring. Well, OpenRefine has a functionality to do that for you. It's not flawless, you still have to check things, but it does it much faster than when you do it step by step. So, that's a great tool. We also have a community member who is very actively working on that reconciliation service. Pintosh, user Pintosh. I heard no one knows him, but I don't know. He's very active on OpenRefine. Sometimes you also have beautiful metadata that is quite easily translatable. One of the points of structured data on commons is that we really want to work towards a situation where this translation of
an organization's, a GLAM's metadata in their database towards commons becomes more straightforward. So at this moment, we are working towards that to make sure that you will be able to connect APIs, or you will be able to create quite easy, more easily than it is the case now, tools with which you can transfer data from one platform to another to do this mapping a lot easier. So that's really one of the goals of structured data. Yes. So yeah, this is also again as a summary. Cleaning data is quite a bit of work. Reconciliation and reformatting. Then the upload process. Yeah, that's in fact what it's all about, right? That's the step where you transfer the data or the images plus metadata to either Wikidata or Commons. I don't think there's quite a lot to say about it. Maybe a few things there. We have kind of different levels of tools for that. And if you've done GLAM projects, you will be familiar with the variety of tools that are out there. Maybe you have worked with community members who have specifically written bots for you that did the upload. It's possible. But we also have a very good tool that is in fact constantly being improved. PattyPen, it's called. PattyPen is a flat squash. It's a piece of vegetable, but it's also a great upload tool for Commons. Created by Paweł Malinowski, user Jarl, who is also very interested in making this tool then later compatible with structured data on Commons. So we really put our hopes that this tool will be really one of the relevant tools to use. If you really want to do like high level, quite hardcore, big upload stuff regularly from GLAM, then the GLAM Wiki toolset at this moment is a quite good solution. A few tips would be, try to avoid having very big mistake propagate in an upload. That is something that has luckily, just by pure luck, has never happened to me, but it happens a lot. Make sure that you do a small batch upload first, like 10 files, double check is everything correct, are you not making stupid mistakes with wrong categories or forgetting angled brackets or anything like that. And split it up into smaller parts, just to be sure that in between you can always have a double check. To avoid errors from duplicating. And even then, you will make mistakes. I have made small mistakes all the time, luckily no big mistakes, but I've always come back to an upload I've done. And either maybe adding new categories or updating creator templates, or in the case of uploads to Wikidata of datasets, maybe adding some more references or something like that. I've always done that, I think, with every single upload I've done, and I'm sure you've done that as well. This example again is something that I just did as an example for again this category of images of Peter Alik's work from Estonia. I noticed that none of them had a creator template. Well, Peter Alik has a Wikidata item and he does have a creator template on Commons. So I used the fabulous tool, which Andrew didn't know yet, visual file change. It's a really good tool to do like mass changes on Commons, to replace the simple string of his name with the creator template, which makes it a lot more compatible with structured data in the future. So yeah, this is just, for me, was 2 minutes of work, and it's, a whole category is improved by that. That's the stuff you do. Corrections. Then we come to 2 steps that have this like little thoughts bubble on top of them in your workflow sheets, that are steps that can use sometimes a bit more attention in upload workflows or in general in GLAM projects. And especially these 2 steps, we really hope that structured data on Commons again will be like a catalyst to make these more interesting and to be able to give anyone, GLAMs, the community, more possibilities to do more interesting stuff there. One of them is enrichment. We often see that, and I've done it too, that you do an upload of data of media files to Commons, and then maybe you do a little campaign on your local Wikipedia to ask your Wikipedia community or your Wikipedia community to illustrate articles with these images. That happens a lot, but there is a lot more possible. And I've seen quite a lot of beautiful examples of it myself. Enrichment, improving either the data or the files in Commons. Europeana is a very good example of that. Our colleague Ian Wyatt, whom I haven't seen yet, but he will be here in the next days, he has recently done a translation campaign on Wikidata. That's pure enrichment, asking community members to enrich, to translate terminology on Wikidata, but in the future you will also be able to do that on Commons. Translate descriptions of files, translate things that are depicted in files, translate captions. That's something that you can do. Other types of enrichment. This is something that, again, our Brazilian friends are doing. They've done big uploads of local heritage and local artworks from local museums. Quite a lot of it is high-quality material that documents their own, region, and they've done image annotations. That's also something that is later on the roadmap of structured data on Commons to make sure that these keep working with structured data on Commons. So image annotations, that's kind of an interesting thing to do. Might be relevant for certain collections, might be interesting and fun. This is one that I've seen in a project that I have been involved in. I've once uploaded a set of images from an expedition to East Indonesia, or East Timor, etc., a whole expedition at the end of the 19th century. And actually, the Glenn that donated those images didn't really know very well what was in these photos. There was a little bit of documentation about it, but they didn't know it very well. And our communities are amazing in the sense that you have specialists in any topic. And on Commons, we have one specialist, one person, J. Patrick Fisher is his name, I think. I met him in person, I did. He knows East Timor like his back pocket. So he went to some of these images and he wrote to me like, Sandra, hey, this is on this beach, on this Timorese island, this specific spot, and that's this ethnic group that you see there. And he added that stuff to Commons. I think there's a lot of power there that you can still tap into that we don't do yet. So people adding categories, adding metadata, adding enrichments, very interesting. And we hope structured data on Commons will also make it possible to even create little tools for that. The APIs will be better to be able to work with that. So if you want to do campaigns with your flags, like depicting things, showing on Commons what things are depicted in images, you will have it a lot easier than we do now. So enrichment, lots of possibilities there. Keep it in mind, I would say. Reuse. Reuse is also something. Mostly our upload campaigns, especially to Wikimedia Commons, are really focused on reuse on Wikipedia. But I just had a conversation with someone who said, at Wikivoyage, we are a big user of this. But also even beyond our Wikimedia projects, there might be a lot of possibilities to encourage your partners to reuse the material. Or it might even be their incentive to work with you, to use the material again. On Wikidata we see that more often, that's becoming more prominent. This is an example of the Finnish national broadcasting company, YLE. I don't know how you pronounce it in Finnish. They use Wikidata to, link their keywords on their website. So they have news items about news events, but also about people. This is one about a musician, a Finnish musician, and to disinambiguate, you know what I mean, terms to say this is the precise person that we mean, or this is the precise concept that we mean. They link to Wikidata. Another step could be that they take in information from Wikidata to even show more information about these concepts. So reuse, think beyond Wikipedia. And then evaluation and reporting. Maybe I just have to give the word to Andrew, because he has brought a very beautiful example of how it applies to a project of his. I'll just skip my own example because this is better.
Sure.
Andrew?
Okay. Okay. You may have to reload it for a second. Oh, that's good.
This is
Excellent. Okay, great, thanks a lot. So how many people here have heard of the Hay Festival before? Some of you might have, not many, right? So actually I didn't know much about the Hay Festival either. So let's see if I can show you. Okay, so the Hay Festival is one of the better known, probably best known, arts and books festival in the UK. And it's held in Wales, and it's attended by many top authors and famous personalities. And I just happened to be going out in the area, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we got, from this event, better headshots of all these folks going, like Salman Rushdie, Caitlin Moran, all these really great authors. And I didn't know how long I'd be there, but I said, let's contact the Hay Festival organizers and see if we can get access, and I can take some photos and upload them. So part of it also was to work with them to see if they would be releasing their photos under Creative Commons content. They released some of them, but I thought that for our specific needs, it'd be better to photograph them directly. So through the help of Wikimedia UK, we got in touch with the press folks, and after explaining a little bit about how GLAM engagements work, they're actually really enthusiastic. They said, yeah, come on by, take photos, we'll give you press pass, you can have access to all this stuff, which is great. So the basic summary is that we improved the headshots in Wikipedia and Wikidata, and we showed some interesting metrics and reports, which when Sandra came up with this workflow in one sheet, I was a real big fan of it because a lot of what we did just followed that workflow, and I'm a big fan of one-pagers to explain stuff. We've got a lot of documentation, but they're often not boiled down into a real tight list like this. So this is that workflow that Sandra showed before, but I put in kind of my own tasks that I did. So these are basically a subset of what Sandra just explained, but it gives you a real practical example of how you take a bunch of photos, prepare them with a spreadsheet, upload them with PattyPen, and then kind of the fun begins. Now how do you get those into the wiki ecosystem? And then more astonishingly, what happens when you put them in the wiki ecosystem, how quickly they go out to things beyond the wiki ecosystem. All right, so at the beginning we had to explain the copyright issues and everything, and after they understood those, they said, come on by, you'll have the ability to do that. So I'm going to show you what we did with the compare data and upload part here. We're going to evaluate the headshot photos, and part of this was just seeing what does Wikipedia have already. This is something we often overlook, right? It's just to say, an organization says, hey, I want to give you stuff. Well, let's see what our coverage looks like, what our gaps are, and where there might be overlaps. And then we uploaded them with PattyPen. So here's an example. So that's me taking the photographs, but I just wound up with a gigantic pile of photos, like 2,000 photos. And you need to do a lot of work on your side to sift through which ones are the best photos. You don't want 10 pictures of Salman Rushdie, probably only one or two. So go through them, look at, see what Commons has already. Are your photos going to be better than what we have now in Commons? Unfortunately, I kind of looked through them before. I knew what kind of headshots would be better. Then, I know this is dizzying, but you put them all in a spreadsheet, right? So these are file names. These are, the photographers or attribution. So if you look a little bit closer, these are more interesting fields you can fill out in the spreadsheet for PattyPen. So you can put depicted people. So this has to match the exact name of the Wikipedia article that we have. So it's got to be depicted people, it's got to match. And then if you go to the Commons description page now, it will link directly there. Unfortunately, structured data on the Commons will really link this into the whole Wikidata info system, right? And then also you can put depicted places as well. So these have to match exactly the Wikipedia article names. And then you can also put in the license. So this has to be very specifically formatted. So when you upload with PattyPen in one gigantic bulk upload, it will choose the right license for each of those. And then you can also add categories as well, one or multiple categories. So that takes a little bit of time. I think this is your favorite part, right? Just getting all the stuff aligned, do a few test uploads to make sure your entries are going to work. Then it's kind of exhilarating to take the gigantic spreadsheet, point it to your folder, and boom, all of it gets uploaded in one shot to Commons. Then what do? Well, you want to start seeing how to incorporate that into the wiki ecosystem. So one of the most important things is to add those headshot photos to relevant Wikipedia info boxes, right? So if you take a look now, like Salman Rushdie, that is a photo I took at the Hay Festival. Significantly better than the one that was there before. And then Caitlin Moran, you can see there, because if you go to Wikidata and point to the photo in Wikidata, any of the Wikipedia editions that generate info boxes off of Wikidata will get that photo right away, which is pretty cool. So Catalan Wikipedia, which uses a lot of Wikidata-driven info boxes, got that photo automatically because you change it in Wikidata. And I think that's also another indication of the power of Wikidata that you can maybe talk to your plan partners about if you're working with them. Okay, so this is just a normal embed of the photo in English Wikipedia because we tend not to use Wikidata-driven info boxes. Ooh. But all the Wikipedia editions that do use Wikidata-driven info boxes get this reward right away. hint, hint, hint. Maybe we should be using more Wikidata-driven info boxes. Okay. Yeah.
But that would also raise the issue of internationalizing any caption if the caption is at all needed to clarify exactly what's depicted.
Yeah, that's right. There's still some kinks to be worked out here, but that's pretty cool.
Look, you can add captions in multiple languages on Wiki.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, and for images, multilingual captions are the first thing to be implemented for structured data on commons. That will already roll out in June, July. So, yeah, first feature.
Cool.
But still, if it happens instantly, and they may have an existing caption that was accurate from the previous photo, saying, Salman Rushdie in 2012, and boom, you give them the brand new image. You're going to find some breaks there. You're going to find some things.
Well, if you're pulling the caption,
So let's not debate Wikidata.
I know, I should have brought that up there. Don't worry, we'll have plenty of time to talk about
So
that.
just clarifying the technical issues.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding, if you're pulling the picture already, you're also pulling the caption, so there's no caption that needs to be.
Yeah, there should be no caption mismatch, when this is.
So nobody's pulling the picture without also pulling the caption?
I know Catalan is not doing the mismatch. I think Catalan is doing the right thing. Yeah. And if you follow the Catalan example, then you should be doing it right. And then this is kind of cool for partners. I found this is really useful. These are snapshots of the Wikipedia articles on mobile. And this really shows the power of what happens when you have a really good headshot of an individual for a bio. So these are, each of those things is a mobile snapshot, boom, 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 boom. And what it shows you is when you look at Wikipedia on mobile, the first thing that hits you is the picture. Then you read the person's name and then the content below it, which is very different than reading it on a web browser, right? So this is really high impact if you look at it, right? That if you show a partner, by your working with us, look at the way that we can improve Wikipedia for readers, it's just gonna be really good, dramatic, punchy, high impact portraits that you helped us get out there.
Stupid question. Are these just screenshots or did you use a tool to create this?
I use a tool. So if you just, everyone knows how to kind of screenshot what's on your phone. So you can screenshot one, go to the next page, screenshot, screenshot, screenshot. If you want like a script using this program called Image Magic, if you just have a whole folder full of those images, it'll tile them together and make one big image like this. So it's really high impact sometimes when you're showing Glam partners this kind of stuff. Okay. So this is just a bunch of screenshots from your mobile phone stitched together in a quilt like this.
It's Image Magic?
Image Magic, yeah. It's Image Magic and then some incantation on the command line to do that. Yeah, contact me if you want that command line. So then what's kind of cool about this, and I just did this because I'm a metrics geek. I didn't do this for anyone other than say, hey, I just need this for my own use. I came up with kind of a 5-point rating for portraits. So in case anyone came back and said, hey, what are you doing for placing on the portraits, at least I could point to something and say, well, with my rating system, I evaluated that the existing portrait was 3 and mine is a 4. That's why I replaced it, right? So I basically said, the top quality is 5, the lowest quality is 1. If there's no portrait of that person, I put a 0 in the game. It's gone, right? So, you can read the specifics later on, but what I did was I basically said, how was the picture before, what picture did I take, and did I improve it? So there were a few headshots where I didn't improve it at all. It's like, I took a good shot, but it was already a good shot. But for most of them, I did improve them. So I basically made a chart that said, here's the headshot grade before, and then after, and then certainly for the ones where there was no headshot, the one I shot was better, right? Because it's going from nothing to something. So you can see that it shows in this chart here whether I improved it 1 grade, 2 grades, or from nothing to something. Okay, so this is just some of the basic stats from there. 8 of the 21 articles had no headshots at all, so I improved them certainly. And then 5 were improved by 2 grades, 7 articles were improved by 1 grade, and then 1 was unchanged because my portrait was no better than the one that was there already. Okay. So it's kind of interesting as a report back to the folks who you're working with, the kind of impact that you're having. And then finally, just to show you some of the things, if you haven't used Glamorgan before, this is a great tool just to point at a category in Commons, and it'll give you a report of how much those images have been viewed. So I thought this is really high impact when you show someone, it shows you even breakdown by wiki edition, how many views your images get via those different Wikipedia editions right there. So this is the #1 high impact image from the Hay Festival, just Salman Rushdie's profile picture there. And then finally, this is really cool. So we're talking about impact within Wikipedia. Now, if you didn't know, Siri Knowledge, which is kind of the built-in search function of your iOS device, your iPad, or your iPhone, without having to go to a website or anything, if you just type in salmon like that, S-A-L-M-A-N, at least in my phone and ones I've seen, it'll pop up with that from Siri Knowledge. That is my photo from the Hay Festival, and without you having to actually do anything, not go to a Wikipedia app, not go to a web browser, you just type in salmon, S-A-L-M-A-N, on your phone, you guys can try it. That pops up. So when you show someone this that you're working with, they're like, wow, that just shows up in my phone. And then obviously when you're doing Google searches, those photos show up as well. So this is Valeria Lucelli. The picture all the way on the left is from the Hay Festival. That's one we shot. So in terms of showing impact, I think this is kind of a nice thing to kind of show the whole flow. And then the end of the rainbow is a pot of gold of like, you know, impact and ubiquity for their content. So, all right, I think that's it.
Yes. So, can you just clarify, in these partnerships, who is doing which aspects of the labor? Because there's clearly a lot of work that goes into cleaning all of that. I mean, I do this in my daytime job. Like, who's doing it?
It's so different from project, I would say. Yeah, as a Wikimedia resident, I've done a lot myself because you were paid to do that.
Right.
But we've also had projects where the labor is divided, or you have some volunteers helping with a certain aspect, someone from the chapter helping with a certain aspect. I've seen, for instance, in Wikimedia Netherlands, that the chapter helps with the cleanup of the data, and then the upload happens to a volunteer who uses a bot. So it's often a quite intricate play, and it can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can we use this project as an example? Because I'm kind of curious. What is the partnership? Because it seems like it was just you showed up with a camera and did all the work.
yeah.
And so what benefit are you getting from partnering with them that you're not getting from just being there?
Right. Well, I mean, this is one of those questions of any kind of like glam event or whatever. So in the sense, you know, they gave me access to the whole thing, whereas I didn't have to pay the ticket or anything. So that's part of it, right?
Okay, that's.
But part of it also is, you know, kind of a pilot. Like, so we've been talking to Wikimedia UK and other folks. Like, GLAM partnerships have typically been with institutions, things with physical structures, and this is like a festival partnership. I'm not sure how many times that's been done, but we do have that Wiki Summerfest stuff, but it hasn't been repeated that many times. So part of this was to do it, and I did most of the heavy lifting, obviously, but to show kind of a learning pattern, like maybe we should be trying this. So one thing that we talked about as well with Wiki Conference North America is not just having a conference every year, but maybe we go on the road and go to festivals and book festivals and literature festivals and try doing something like this there. Coachella.
This question of labor is, I think, really important as your affiliate goes into GLAM partnerships. And setting expectations early on about the labor is really important going into GLAM partnerships. And it's something that everyone's solving differently. But for the most part, the end labor is the Wikipedia residence, an affiliate, or a volunteer. That being said, if you train your partners really well, they can do a lot of work there. But this is part of the reason why I'm warning off a lot of people against digitization, because there's even more pre-processing, right? Like when you do a batch upload of already digitized content, you don't have to, like the metadata has some format, and you can work with your partner to do something with it, right? Digitization, you're often creating the metadata, and you're having to like clean the photos beforehand. So there's a lot of labor built into that process. This is where it helps to have digitally skilled or digitally literate partners for stuff as you're learning the process, and then when you're a little bit more confident working with smaller institutions. This is also why we're recommending small batch. So try to do, like some of the early GLAM partnerships were like huge batch uploads, or like the visibility of the Met might be very persuasive because they uploaded like 400,000 images, but that was a custom script on a very semi-reliable data that had institutional partnership in cleaning the data, which is something that like a lot of us can't replicate.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, and I look forward to continuing it, because there are implications of labor attribution for that labor. But I also think that as we talk more about knowledge equity, that there are real implications in what institutions we're able to partner with. And so we can, we're going to be motivated to work with organizations like the Met, but there are also like smaller activist groups, historical societies, and how do we empower those people and those partnerships. And so it's an awesome project, an awesome conversation, but something to think about.
Well, and whose knowledge and Stacey Allison Kaysen are running experiments on this in terms of like what do we do with small batches? And I can, if you're interested in those, I can share those later. One other thought. So there's an opportunity in the movement direction from the strategy process to ask for more support from the more established chapters who understand these workflows. There's an opportunity to say, like, small affiliates need support from established chapters to do technically complicated work like this. Wikimedia Sweden has been piloting this a little bit through their Connected Open Heritage project. And has anyone worked with their Connected Open Heritage work? Okay, they've had partnered with about 5 other affiliates to do batch uploads of data to Wikidata into Commons, and they're going to be doing more of that in the future, but it's the big batch work does need that technical expertise.
I just want to briefly talk about the labor issue, and I'm really glad that Megan brought it up. But I wanted to talk about what you said about, like, if you're on the back end creating metadata and scanning things, I'm an archivist and you're literally doing my job. And so if you're partnering with an institution and you're doing all that stuff, they're getting free work that should be done by a professional or an intern who is paid or compensated in another way. And so is that a partnership, or are they just taking advantage of you if you're in that situation?
I think the context changes a lot globally. So I know in North America and Europe that's true, but in other parts of the world there is no money or labor for this work.
That's another issue, absolutely.
And one example for this things changing in different places being different is, for example, I'm from Estonia. So we have a very simple situation. We almost have no people to actually eat this thing because our population itself is smaller than the population of Berlin. Now, for us, it's this time of operations. Of course, if I would personally want to go somewhere and would like to take pictures and get something like this, I would be interested in asking those things. But normally, as we in Estonia only have like few active photographers, then what we usually ask there is that, okay, you have some images, please give all of those things under those licenses. And this is like a very common way for us to sort of engaging. So in this case, for instance, it is so that what they are doing is they're doing their photos themselves. They are adding those, giving those photos to us and allowing us from them to be freely shared. So I mean, it could be solved very differently depending on actually what this person is himself wanting to do or has some time to do. So.
Yeah, I think this is part of the reason why we really like PattyPan, because one of the labor activities, cleaning the metadata, is something that a lot of people can do in a spreadsheet, because spreadsheet skills are a lot simpler than like scripts or bot uploads or that kind of stuff. So we highly recommend PattyPan because you can do it in a spreadsheet with spreadsheet functions, which is something that's easier to find skill for. Also small batches are a lot easier to manage than large batch.
Just an announcement that the access of photographers into different kind of events, it's sometimes prohibited, and we have started to write letters of recommendation into press accreditation. I suppose other chapters have done that. This is a good idea because commons photographers are not considered as presses and such. Another notion as pictures is general. The Wikipedia community considers pictures as more, let's say, emotional thing. So it's a matter of opinion, matter of taste, even the size of the picture. And that was very interesting to see how you evaluate. We should promote evaluation standards of photographs and publish them.
Yeah, and I think evaluation is something that like we would like to get better at, and so if you have ideas or feedback or models, please share them with us.
I just wanted to mention in particular one thing that's not overtly addressed here that I've seen a lot of people do badly, which is, and I realize this may change as we move, the details of this will change as we move into structured data, but the basic nature of it will be the same. The categorization on a lot of batch uploads has been awful. And I've often been the person who then spends hours and hours and hours cleaning up. And that in general, if all you really know about something is it's, for example, a picture of somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, it's really not nice to dump 2,000 such images into category Seattle. And you know, because it's actively misinformation, you really need to have some, if you're really not doing any meaningful categorization yourself, you ought to be dumping it into just something which is a holder until time is it could be actually categorized.
And this is where, so there's kind of two ways we can approach this. First, the big batch uploads. If you don't have good metadata, don't do a big batch upload. Like, at this point in time, try to do smaller sets. As we get structured data on Commons, there will be easier, simpler ways to start filtering that data with humans. And so, like, one of the real values of uploading to Commons is that enrichment stage. And that's actually what we want to talk about on the workshop tomorrow, Sandra. Workshop ideas about programs around structured data on Commons, particularly enrichment and particularly reuse. We think the community needs to develop better models for this space because when we did the research, there's not a lot of awareness and people aren't planning for that stage of the process. And you really have to, especially with these batch uploads.
Yeah, I just want to add a plus one to Joe really briefly. Don't do this, especially if you're scraping them from a museum's website and they have robust metadata and you're not capturing that, you're just making work for other people. Let someone else do the upload who's also going to take that metadata and upload it as well.
Okay. Any more questions? We had planned a group session, but I see that we are 4 minutes ahead of time. So I would suggest what has come up here in the discussion is in fact also what we hope to get out of the group session or the little group breakout thing is what do you see as pain points here? And I think we already addressed a few of them. Do some of you still have other issues that you find quite striking in this workflow, or do you have any specific more comments, questions about it? Let's use the last minutes for some more feedback and then, yeah, let's call it a day, I would say. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's some. Yes?
Another thing that I've seen happen badly quite a bit, sometimes it seems that stuff that's like a set of tags or equivalent, that's at the level of, you know, the same tags are getting put on thousands of things that actually say were probably tags for what was covered somewhere in the data set, and they end up with it, we end up with this mass upload of those tags onto every single image. So you've got these 23 tags on the thing, of which for a given image 2 might be relevant. And the other related thing I've seen is there'll be something where things were scanned from books, and there's an OCR of the text near it. It's usually a terrible OCR. Often is completely irrelevant because the book didn't really put the figures anywhere near the stuff that they referred to, and we get tons of this stuff dumped in, and it's very clear that nobody up front gave any thought to that being in the data set that they had, and it takes someone else, I am sure, tremendously more time to fix it after the fact than it might have taken if somebody was giving it some thought what to do with this stuff up front when they were doing the upload.
Thanks. Actually, the things you describe, we've also researched that, but from a perspective of why these mistakes happen, why GLAMs do these stupid things like add thousands of images to wrong categories. And that has been quite well described in the research that has been done by the end of last year. One of the reasons is that it is very hard for outsiders to understand and to find right categories on Commons. So the category system is quite clear to the Commons community itself, but for outsiders it's really hard to find your way around it. And especially if you have different, yes, that's one of the very clear findings. You should read the results. I would recommend everyone to have a look at the research results that have come out of the interviews that we have done with Glenn staff about commons. And this is also one of the things that we hope to be addressed indeed with structured data on commons, that much more precise metadating can happen through structured data. So that can hopefully become much more smooth in that way.
Very much not wanting in this context to name names, but the problems I've seen on uploads by experiences, people from, the uploader on this is somebody who's well known in experience. It's not the GLAM that got it wrong. Well, the GLAM may have gotten it wrong, but the Wikipedia involved didn't do anything between that and it ending up on commons. There was a Wikipedia that was experienced, was involved in doing the rest of the time.
They know who they are.
Yeah.
I hope they're well.
Yeah, so, and this is where we would love to do more mentoring. Sandra's doing an excellent workshop tomorrow to kind of think through projects. And we'd really encourage you to help us document and talk about these steps in the process with everyone who's interested in it. And did you have other thoughts?
Thanks everyone. Please evaluate our session. Let us know if you like the workflow or also if you don't find it useful at all. And yeah, we're very curious to hear what you think about it, and feel free to just take it from comments, reuse it, edit it, make other versions, whatever.
You mentioned some research results.
I just figured it out.
Oh, super, thank you so much. Yeah, yay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Perfect.
the research is on Meta,
Yeah.
and it's GLAM uploads.
Yeah, something if you do research.
Supporting commons contribution by
Yes.
institutions, is that it?
Yeah,
That's the one.
that is it.
Yes.
That is the research.
Yeah. So it's a result of interviews with, I think, a panel of like 12, 13 people, and then a survey with more than 100 people. So
Yeah, it's one of the biggest data collections we've had on this workflow. And it's not confirmed from the pre-research we've done, so it fared out pretty well.
thank you.